Several times, when someone came to Jesus for healing, you can remember what he said. Your sins are forgiven. Now, that's an interesting statement, don't you think? The people came for a variety of reasons, a variety of healings, and so many times his words were, your sins are forgiven. As if there's some connection or correlation between healing and the forgiveness of sin. Now we all understand that word sin, right? It's been bantered around in religion until I think we think of it as one of those religiously dirty words. We should never do that. We should never sin. Well, have you reached that place in your life where you never buy pencils with erasers? Because to sin is to make a mistake. That's the purpose for the eraser on the pencil, to erase mistakes. Forgiveness is a way to erase the mistake, to let it go, leave it behind. Now, the Bible is a record of God's relationship with man, but it's also a record of our relationship with God. And when it talks about sin, it's talking about some breakdown in that relationship. Now think about that. If there's some change that occurred in that relationship, which one moved? God didn't go anywhere. And God is love. God's nature is absolute good. So it didn't look upon anyone ever and say, oh, you're just too wicked for me. I can't be in your presence. God can't separate itself from any part of its creation, even for an instant. Those are Charles Fillmore's words. But what happens if God could separate itself? It would cease to exist, that part of creation. God could separate itself from you. We'd hear the little pop as the air rushed in to fill that space that you occupy. But that doesn't happen because God does not move. So if there's a problem with that oneness, that connection, then the problem's on our end. We are having a problem with that connection. In looking for healing of one kind or another, doesn't just mean physical healing. And I think the first thought that comes into mind when you hear healing, you're thinking about something to do with physicality. But anything in your life that is broken needs to be healed. What about when you're having a financial challenge? Oh, something about your prosperity is broken and needs to be restored. If you're feeling a lack of love in your life, then there's a problem there that needs to be repaired, to be healed. We want our relationships to be whole. We want our finances to be whole and well. It's connected to the word heal, meaning whole and well. And yet when we talk about these things in our lives, things that I think are important to us, and I'll ask you, aren't they? Health, finances, prosperity, relationships, love, peace of mind. If they're important, then why do we use words that negate their importance. Such things as incurable, it's permanent, chronic, it can't be fixed. I think the last time I heard it can't be fixed was about a television, not a human being, or a life, or some aspect of somebody's life. Now, in the beginning of the Bible, and you're all familiar with that part, most of us never get past the first page or so. You remember the story. God created man in his image, after his likeness. Kind of reminds us of Veronica, yes? Vera icon, the true image. And the image of what? Of God. We are created in the image, after the likeness of God. So what does that really mean? To be created in the image after the likeness. For something to be created in the image of something else, there must be an original. Well, what's the original? God. And what is God but pure divine mind, pure perfection, and absolute good? That is our basic nature. The good and the wonder of God already implanted in every human being. We look like the original, not in outer physical appearance, but in how we are created and what we are created to be. A true image of the life, the love, the abundance, the supply and intelligence of God. Now, Paul said a lot of things, and I'll be honest, I don't agree with everything he said, but he had some really brilliant words that ring throughout history since he stated them. And this comes from 2 Corinthians. We all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being changed into his likeness from one degree of glory to another. I like that phrase, unveiled face, beholding. But there's another translation that I think is a little clearer. Unveiled face, reflecting. Reflecting. It sounds like a mirror. And what does a mirror do? I know some of us believe that mirrors are lying pieces of glass. You stand in front of it and you think, well, that's not me. I'm young. I'm pretty. Not that. I think sometimes we have a relationship with the mirror such as we walk past them and don't even look. Go another way so that we don't have to pass in front of them. A mirror reflects what it's pointed to, directed to, and reflects it. If it's a good mirror, it reflects it perfectly. Whatever it's directed to, it reflects. Same way with your mind. It's the way your mind works. What your mind is centered on, whatever is the idea that is within your mind, that's what's reflected out into your world. Whatever your mind contemplates, whatever it thinks about, whatever pattern you give it, is what it reflects into your life. It is what it expresses. I begin to think how simple. this little idea is, the mirror reflects exactly what it's directed to. Your mind reflects exactly what it's directed to. Simple idea. But how important is it? Wow. Makes whole new meaning to that expression that you've heard so many times. You probably hope I don't say it. As in mind, so in manifestation, right? The pattern in the mind reflects out into the world and becomes the expression. A mirror doing perfectly what a mirror does, without batteries, without electricity, because the power is built into it. Just like your mind. The law of reflection, wherever you turn your mirror, that's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to experience. So again, the idea of sin. We make mistakes because we reflect something. We perceive something through a distortion. Reflecting something that isn't real, isn't godlike, that isn't the pure and perfect creation that God made. We have a variety of ideas about things, and you go to a yard sale, you have many opportunities to wonder why anyone ever bought that to begin with. I remember for the 60s well, and then we moved into the 70s. Anybody else here ever have elephant bells? Wear platform shoes? Nehru jackets? Why? In hindsight now, they look kind of odd, don't they? No? You like them, eh? Okay. Man, those bells were like that. That why? It was like wearing big, heavy, I guess waiters, like pushing around waiters. Not waiters, but wading boots. How, as we change and grow and consciousness grows, things look different. We see from a new perspective. Perhaps not so much through a glass darkly, not so much reflecting what we don't like. Having a mirror, having your mind turned towards something that is not whole, not complete. What is that going to do for you? The law of the mirror, where it's pointed, is what it reflects. Oh, it's incurable, there isn't enough, no one loves me. Is that where you want to point your mirror? Is that what you want to keep holding in mind? Of course not. It's not what you want. But it's what we do. When we're not thinking. Well, when we are thinking, but from a human perception, from the things that other people have taught us, including Sunday schools and parents and teachers. And we've heard a lot of stuff about life that isn't true. And you have heard them too. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You'll never be like your brother or your sister. Yeah. We've had a lot of patterns handed to us. If we are enlightened, we know to let them go. And to let them go is to forgive. To forgive. Jesus said, your sins are forgiven. I know he didn't say that in every instance, in every healing. But because he didn't say it, doesn't mean to me that it wasn't in his mind. What is forgiveness? I've heard a variety of definitions, and one of the weak ones is forgiveness is to give good for something else. Well, how about to give truth in place of a lie? To give yourself the image of what is real and God instead of what is distorted and limited and perhaps grotesque. We do that when we say these words of limitation, incurable, not good, there's not enough. Those are all distortions. Now, Paul's words, we all with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being changed into his likeness from one degree of glory to another. First, changed into his likeness. You already have it, but your consciousness is changing to become aware of what you already are. But we all with unveiled face. Wow! To pull the wool off your eyes. You've heard of pulling the wool over your eyes. Well, every time we've spoken a word, thought a word, believed something about ourselves, that is one of those limitations. A distortion. It's that wool pulled over our eyes. That wool of only human. There's only so much love, time, prosperity, life. You name it. Any human limitation is the wool. And we with unveiled eyes, we have the ability to pull off the mask, to raise the wool from our own eyes, beholding the glory of the Lord, seeing the reality of our creation. What do you think it would mean to you to finally see how awesome you are? Your life, the intelligence, which is God intelligence within you, how awesome it would be to experience the good that is seeking to make its presence known in your life and affairs right now. But it's awfully difficult when the wool is pulled over and you don't see the good. You don't see the life. You don't see all the possibilities that are open before you. You don't see the light that you are and that seeks to express through you at all times. You have a problem. You have a need. What do you do about it? Knowing that law of mind and the law of the mirror, you want to give yourself, find for yourself that perfect pattern to reflect into your life. And there's only one place to find that. You won't find it out on the street. You won't find it in a bookstore. You won't find it in a physician's office or a hospital. You find it when you seek the Lord of your being, that divine spirit implanted within you in the beginning. When you look to Christ in you, you have to look in, not out. You have to look up to the Creator being, to a higher level. One of my great teachers, he was a great teacher, and I still miss him, Ed Rabel. It was a delight to have Ed Rabel for practically all of my ministerial training. And Ed, golly, Ed was also a good friend. He taught us that you never solve a problem from the same level as the problem. So you have a challenge in health, in finances, in love, in whatever. That's here. That's human. That's human experience. You don't solve it by working from this level. You solve it by going to a higher level, a higher power, higher energy, higher thought, to the perfection of your being, recognizing that image likeness that is within you, Christ in you, is a reflection of God, and it is. Remember, we kind of chuckled when I asked about God being sick. Can you imagine the size of the aspirin you would have to give God for a headache? Because God's infinite. No such thing, because God is pure, perfect, whole, complete, and that is the pattern that we ought to be reflecting. It's not our fault we're reflecting something else. It's not. Over a long time, we've been taught a variety of things that aren't true about ourselves. So, real forgiveness is giving truth for an error. And what is that error? I can't tell you. But Jesus said once to a man at the pool of Bethesda, "Arise, take up your bed and walk." And of course, there are always people who doubt, who dispute. So there were those around the man who said, "How can you say this?" They thought they had some authority. And Jesus responded to them, "The Son of Man has the power to forgive sin." The Son of Man. Now, Jesus was called the Son of Man. But what is the Son of Man? In his own language, the expression is Bredanasha. It's an idiom. It means human being. Are you a human being? Then you have the power to forgive sin, to give truth for what is error. To see that true image within you and reflect that into your world. Son of Man wasn't only Jesus, it was all of us. Every person, every human being has the ability to forgive sin. We hold it against ourselves by believing in it, by rethinking it, by continuing to project that pattern. Is there a pattern in your life you would like to give the truth in its place? To forgive ourselves, we need to give ourselves a different image in our minds, a different image to reflect into our worlds, into reality, that which is already real, which is true of God. Is God whole and well? Then the I of you is whole and well. Can you imagine God on welfare? Who would be giving God welfare? God is the source of infinite and absolute good, infinite abundance. Then, as the image likeness, what is true of you? You are a receiver of all that God has. a channel through which that good flows into this world and through the universe. So it is for you to be open and receptive. But you can't when you think of it as not present, as you not good enough. Those are the wrong images to reflect. Giving the truth in the place of the lie. Giving wholeness instead of limitation. Seeing that there's enough to go around. Maybe you don't know where you're going to find that good out in the world in expression, but that's all right. You must know that it exists, and remember this truth. What you seek is seeking you. Remind yourself of this. If you're seeking health, wholeness, if you're seeking greater prosperity or love or peace of mind, what I seek is seeking me. But I have to create the environment for it. I have to be open and receptive and say yes to it. I have to make that firm place in mind for it. I have to be willing to be well. I have to accept health as my birthright. And then I need to make it firm by reminding myself that the I of me is created whole and well. And I continue to affirm I am whole and well. Health is my birthright. Every time some other image starts to pass the screen of your mind, you bring your attention right back, because it's the persistence. Persistence. You give yourself the good in the place of something else. Removing the wool, pulling off the mask. We've all been taught a lot of things. And sometimes a healing need in any area of life, whether it's prosperity, love, peace of mind, health of body, how often it can be connected to, I'm not good enough. But as the true image of God, you are. So, I kind of break this all down to 3 steps. I think forgiveness can be reduced to 3 steps. I believe in health, prosperity, whatever your situation is. First, you must believe in it. And you make that very firm in your mind. I believe in it. Yeah, but I believe in it. And keep turning your head away from yes, but. All the reasons why you can't. I believe in health, life, prosperity, love, joy, peace. I believe in health. I believe in prosperity. I believe in love. Whatever it is, you have to believe so that you can reflect that. That's where you give the image to the mirror, is by believing in it. Remember, your mind reflects what you contemplate, what you hold in it. So you hold that in mind. I believe in health. I believe in prosperity, etc. And then you have a faculty called will. Charles Fillmore called it the executive faculty. If I see a commercial for a particular concert at the Kansas City Symphony, I may think, oh, that's great, and I'd sure like to go. But until I'm willing to go, am I going to go? Am I going to buy a ticket? I must be willing first to even approach purchasing a ticket. I must continue to be willing when I have the ticket in my hand to actually show up. Your feet show the willingness, do they not? I am willing to be well. I am willing to be prosperous. I am willing to be happy. I am willing to be loved and to love. And then it doesn't work if you, well, how many times have you had a thought and it was a wonderful thought, and you thought that thought again and it was still a wonderful thought, and then you forgot about that thought and you held a whole bunch of other thoughts that weren't so wonderful? If you keep changing your mind, are you ever going to receive what you want? Holding in mind the idea that you're willing to be well, that you're willing to be prosperous, that you're willing to be happy, and then making it firm. I am. And that's never a lie. I am whole and well. I am prosperous. I am loved. That's never a lie because it's the truth about you. The I of you, Christ. Is Christ sick? Is Christ poor? Is Christ unloved, unlovable? No. The I of you, the real of you, that image, likeness of God of you is whole and well, is prosperous, is loved, is joy, is happy. And you make that firm. Therefore, the I of you is healed. The I of you is abundantly supplied. The I of you draws to you the pure, perfect relationship. In that whole process, you've turned the mirror on what you want, and you keep it there. You don't let it get blown aside, and you keep that wool off of your eyes. Nobody's going to pull the wool over your eyes anymore. But it's up to you to keep it off. So let's prepare to take a moment to actually look into that mirror